Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Bitcoin Talks with Sergio and David Hollander. I'm excited to be here today. I'm sitting in, I would like to say sunny Costa Rica, but I'm actually in Boston. What a great place to be. I'm here for an ILA convention, International Luxury Convention, with some colleagues of mine. We've got some crypto meetups. We've been talking with a group in the Bahamas looking to do some lending and stuff for crypto, things like that. And Sergio is live from, where are you live from today, Sergio?
I am from San Miguel de Allende in Mexico. I have been the last days in a ranch and vineyard. We're exploring a crypto real estate transaction, so really really good to be here. It's a bit colder than Costa Rica, but amazing opportunities.
Weather going there. Wow. You know, it's funny. I was literally just having breakfast this morning with one of my colleagues. His name's Daniel Ortiz. He's the broker and main agent in that area. Did all the Rosewood and everything else from Coldwell Banker Martin. He does a lot of different ideas and things there with different companies. And him and I were just discussing how to incorporate some of our lending and stuff that we're doing through our escrow company with you on the board in Mexico. So he does quite a business. He's living between Spain and Mexico right now, but he's a great person. So I'll have to get you connected there.
Yes, absolutely, because this city is trending. Not as much as Costa Rica, but trending a lot.
Yeah, with everything going on in the world right now, it's interesting to see that, Mexico and Costa Rica, Central America, South America, places like that get this bad rap to a certain extent. But the reality is they're still really great places. I know that, San Miguel de Allende there is an area where it's kind of like a little pocket. It's just a beautiful hub and area. You've got a lot of Americans, Europeans, and Canadians and people still hovering there. Costa Ricans as well. And it's just like a little pocket, just like Costa Rica. Costa Rica, over the last 2 months with kind of the world activities going on, we've seen a massive increase. I think the numbers I saw the other day were something like 42% up. Don't quote me on that, of tourism in Costa Rica. I know that when I was in Liberia last week, I think there was like almost 20 private jets on the tarmac there. And in San Jose, I've never seen so many private jets on the tarmac as well. I actually got a video of Michael Jordan landing his jet. So he was back down, I think, for a fishing contest. He's got the big Jordan on the back end of it. It was kind of interesting. I was filming it coming in, and then I noticed it was Jordan's jets. It was kind of neat.
Yeah.
Welcome
No,
back.
and usually when you have political situations, wars, everything, Costa Rica is it's easy to say, hey, political stability, no army, everything, but people really appreciate that when there are complicated situations, for example, right now in the Middle East. And I agree with you. I see a lot of increase regarding conversations, travels, activity in general, because people appreciate what we have here in our country.
Yeah, I mean, I think Costa Rica, I mean, I always say we're like the Switzerland of Central and South America, right? I mean, we've got no military. And so very, very much, U.S. is somewhat of our big brother. I don't like to really say that, but in essence, we're definitely very well connected with the U.S. and those kind of stuff. And so I think we've got a great culture. I think it's something also where Costa Rica is unique in the fact that the entire country is a safe haven. I always call it, I make it the conjunction with, California, where the north is a little bit more jungly and our south is like jungly and, more redwoods you have in the north of California. But then the southern part of California is very dry and very, more of a flatland, like in LA and those kind of areas, and a little bit hotter and deserty area, which is a little bit more like our Guanacaste, right? So you don't have as many hills. You've got more ranches and things like that. You got the Santa Ana winds, we call in California, and Costa Rica gets very windy. So I think it's starting to drive a lot of those people that were going to, areas like, in Mexico and areas where they were buying, you're starting to see them show up. And so the interesting thing I think that we've seen, getting back to our kind of crypto talks today, is we wanted to bring up is I've had the emergence recently of seeing a lot of people asking for lending with crypto in Costa Rica or in Mexico or different areas and things like that. I know through our group that you and I are working at, we can definitely offer that. But there's also been the emergence we've seen of a lot of new banks, some in Panama, some in Costa Rica, more private banks, but things like that. What else are you seeing through Mexico and Costa Rica that you can kind of recommend to our viewers and stuff, that if they wanted to lend against their crypto, let's say Ethereum or Bitcoin?
Yes, usually when Bitcoin prices or crypto prices in general are low, well, now we say low, we're in the 70s more or less, 60s, 70s, but we saw 120 for Bitcoin, so now it's considered low. If you're doing an investment and you're paying with Bitcoin, sometimes you think about it to sell the Bitcoins on this price. So we have done deals in the past. For example, for a house in Villarreal, in San Jose, or for properties in Dominical, to be specifically, where people put their Bitcoin as a collateral. The transactions that we have done are, it's open term, it's 50% loan to value. So if you need $1 million, you need to put the equivalent of $2 million in Bitcoin as a collateral. Interest rates are around 11-12% annually. You pay interest rates on a monthly basis. You only pay interest, and then you could get a margin call. You begin with a 200% collateral. If the price drops 150%, you get a margin call. And at 125, if you don't attend that margin call, you get liquidated. If the opposite thing happens, that the price increases when it's above 200%, you're able to get collateral back. Depending on the situation, of course, we never give financial advice, but if the prices seem low and you have Bitcoin, it might be a good idea to consider a Bitcoin back loan only if you have liquidity enough to pay the monthly interest payments. But that's something that we have done with different exchanges from the US, and more recently we saw it with Central America financial institution.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, so basically what you're saying is that since we're in that, 70 to 74 range right now, it's not a bad time to actually take a loan, because the idea is that also we're going to see Bitcoin kind of take a bump here, probably going up in the next couple months. And so that would help with liquidity as you took a loan to help cover a lot of those expenses and things like that as well.
Yes, that's an interesting financial instrument. There are some loans that are open terms. There are some other ones that are a 12 months period. So you have to take all of that into consideration when you're exploring the options. But it's an interesting idea. And something really, really important, you don't have the taxable event because you're not selling your asset. So that's also a key component.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is to always keep the Bitcoin going on. I mean, you and I are primarily focused on Bitcoin within Central America and primarily in Costa Rica and our talks that we're doing. But it is interesting in my research and all my reading over the past couple of weeks. But from our last podcast, I've really seen the emergence. So, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of these people start to pitch out, we have this bank, we have this, we can lend against this, we can do different things. So to our viewers out there, obviously this is not financial, for us to say anything to you, but be very careful what you do, because there's a lot of people, there's also a lot of scams out there going on as well. So we highly recommend to kind of vet your stuff. And this is why that we sit on the board of the escrow company that we opened up, in order to have this as a qualified group to come through, where people could actually come through and or exchange to purchase in Costa Rica, like we've talked about, land. They can purchase homes any price they need to be in, and or for construction. I mean, one of our biggest exchanges right now of Bitcoin or Ethereum is people that are actually building homes in Costa Rica, and they need to do an exchange of, call it $100,000 to $200,000, something like that, or maybe $500,000. So we've seen a lot of requests coming through that over the last couple of weeks as well. What are you seeing in the in the market as you're traveling around? I know you've been in the UK, you're in Mexico now, you'll be back in Costa Rica. You kind of been a lot more on the road than I have. I've been more on the road in Costa Rica. What are you seeing the trends as in lending internationally, and or are people holding more right now their Bitcoin you're seeing, or are they kind of bringing it more to the table to start moving some Bitcoin as well?
I see that from an industry point of view, all the traditional financial instruments, or mostly all, are now available in Bitcoin, because lending against assets, lending against your portfolio, against gold, everything, it has been on the market for a long time ago. So now seeing that into Bitcoin, it's really interesting. People are starting to play a bit with Bitcoin in a more strategic way. For example, I'm not selling it, I'm getting liquidity against it. There are very important things. Another advice is to always ask who is the custodian, because it's not only to get the loan and and get liquidity and do the payments, it's really important to understand who is the custodian of your bitcoins. So, for example, if it's a big bank or it's in companies like Fireblocks or a financial institution like Santander that I know a group,
Hmm.
it's more interesting because I have when you do that question, sometimes people say, "Hey, yes, no, it's in our blockchain, in our data center," so you need to be careful with that. I see definitely, I have seen an increase in properties in Costa Rica that are crypto to crypto. So people that are selling and are accepting direct payments in crypto. So that's also interesting. And not only Bitcoin, I see also a lot of movement in stable coins. So people have their Bitcoin, they hedge at some moment, or they generate a stable coin because of their traditional business. They get payment from when they import or export in stable coins, and then they use that to transact, usually USDC or USDT.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like you said, it's a comfort level that's coming into play. People are starting to be, they're starting to understand that they could actually do and operate even in Costa Rica. And we've talked about it before, of like the Bitcoin jungle, which I know you're going to be speaking at the Bitcoin conference in Las Vegas with the guys from Bitcoin Jungle and some of our other groups there, which is a really good opportunity to really let people understand the amount of transactions and or easiness of actually operating in Costa Rica. I mean, something else to touch on is that, lending and the financial world that you and I are dealing more in with real estate transaction, there's also just the everyday, right? The everyday is I go to Santa Teresa, I go to the Southern Zone, Dominical or Baena and Uvita. Can I operate and actually use my Bitcoin instead of having to put it into a stable coin or exchanging it to dollars or doing whatever? And with things like the Bitcoin jungle, which I'll mention, as we've mentioned before, I mean, they've really created a great platform, and you can literally buy, like we've said before, everything from a coconut, all the way up to a meal somewhere. Most restaurants, I was just visiting my office, we're doing a transaction in Santa Teresa as well. And most restaurants, even in Santa Teresa, will accept Bitcoin for payment at dinner. You can go to some of the grocery stores; they'll accept Bitcoin there. So there's been a very common practice, which you don't see. I personally don't see it as much in the U.S. You know what I mean? You would think that you'd
Yes.
see it a lot more actively, but it's kind of interesting to see that in a smaller country like Costa Rica, it's, I mean, there's literally stickers on wall. And, I'm here in Boston right now and I've not seen anything about Bitcoin, right? I mean, I haven't seen, I'm sure there's some, I mean, with MIT sitting across me in Harvard, I'm sure there's something going on somewhere, but, I'm going to be visiting the area tomorrow actually, but you just don't see it, right? And it's very prevalent in Costa Rica. I mean, you're even seeing it in San Jose now in different areas. I think the mainstream is starting to accept that. And so I guess one of my questions I would have for you in that is, what do you think? How do you think that's going to really affect our price? Sometimes my worry is that we got everybody talking that Bitcoin's going to get to 1 million. It's going to go here. It's going to go there. But I think also as we go more mainstream with Bitcoin, I think it really stabilizes it as well. I'm not sure where that number is going to stabilize at, but it seems like it's going to create more of a stabilization as you would find in a market, right? Like in the stock market, like you said, with gold or something like that. Whereas alternative factors, maybe political and stuff, would affect us a lot more than different factors that were affecting us before with Bitcoin to make it rise so high. So what do you think about that?
Yes, I mean, when adoption increases, the price is more stable. For example, in this cycle, when the Bitcoin price start dropping down, a lot of people were talking, "Hey, we're going back to 30s or we're going back to less than 20 and everything." We stopped at the all-time high in round numbers of the last cycle, the 869, and we have been there for a while because people start understanding that at the end of the day, an asset like Bitcoin not necessarily needs to sell it because some of the questions with the political situation in Middle East, if you see, okay, let's go buy gold, no, let's go buy silver, let's sell Bitcoin. People doesn't even know what to do. When people start and especially institutions buying more Bitcoin, the price gets more stable in general. And just to complement your comment regarding the mainstream Costa Rica, Yes, I met with Lee from Bitcoin Jungle because, like you said, we're planning the presentation in the Bitcoin conference in Vegas, and the job that they are doing, I was surprised because I thought it was only in Dominical, but there's a map and there's a lot of stores across Costa Rica that accept Bitcoin to Bitcoin payments. And we were having a discussion about comparing this with El Salvador, and something that Lee was saying, because it's not my my phrase, just to respect copyrights, that, for example, El Salvador strategy is top down. So the government put Bitcoin at some moment as a legal tender, but if you go down to El Salvador to small groceries and everything, not everybody accept Bitcoin. On the flip side, Costa Rican strategy is bottom up. We have been building this acceptance and everything, and this looks to be more effective. So that's also an interesting way to compare both scenarios between El Salvador and Costa Rica.
Well, it's also the premise of what Bitcoin was created for, right? I mean, the idea was from the bottom up for us to create a different financial system, what's going on. So I would agree with you. I mean, I've been all through Salvador. I love it. I mean, you can definitely do certain things with Bitcoin there, but it's not as interactive as you will find it. Like I said, I mean, I live in the southern zone in Dominical and Uvita, and I mean, I can go almost anywhere. I mean, and not spend, not even use my Costa Rica bank accounts, literally just transferring Bitcoin to Bitcoin to do everything I'm doing in a day from the, like I said, the feria to the farmers markets to the stores to eating dinner. So I agree. I mean, that is a good analogy from the bottom up or from the top down, because definitely the government is growing. I mean, Salvador's got a lot of great stuff going on for it, and it's really coming up. But I go back once again to the real estate part of this in this world is that Costa Rica is in my essence a stable coin. You know what I mean? It's a stable country.
Yes.
It's, I still go back and I'm going to put it out there. And I've been trying to coin that phrase that I think we are the Singapore of Central America. I mean, I think that we have the ability, we have the education to really become a technology hub. And I think with Laura, our new president in here, hopefully that we'll see that push. I've got to have some meetings with her on personal dinners and things like that. And she's definitely active to really bring back these companies or sustain them here. Companies like Intel and stuff that are working in our country, that are bringing technology, and with the education level that we have and what people are doing in Costa Rica. I mean, we have the ability through these Bitcoin networks and banking and just technology and the new explosion of AI coming in to really see Costa Rica become this hub for technology, for companies, for things to really start happening, which you just don't have. I mean, Mexico is a large city. Nicaragua has, hubs of areas for that to happen. Panama is more in the Panama City, whereas Costa Rica really has the entire country has a great educational system. It's expanding and it's growing, and Salvador has got some time to still go. I mean, it's a great country, and, I visit it quite a bit and I'm really impressed with what they're doing there. But I just haven't, not to say one's better than the other, but I just haven't seen the what we have going on in Costa Rica with like the free trade zones with, where we have medical devices being made here in Costa Rica. We've got just a lot of technology, a lot of stuff starting to happen and or continuing. So it's a really great opportunity for businesses and people alike to come to Costa Rica, and or it's a great place to park, money in as an investment. This morning I was meeting with the Coal Banker Group out of the Bahamas. And I didn't know that the Bahamas actually offers, if you rent your house, and even if it doesn't rent, you just got to put it in a rental pool for 20 years, you have 0% tax, right? On your, as property tax, which is
Wow.
an interesting concept. So what they're getting right now is a really big drive for people to, from, let's call it from Mexico, from the US, from the UK, they're going there and they're going to like a Four Seasons residence, right? And this guy, gentleman Gavin, and they're buying a villa there, a unit there for, call it, $7-8 million, but they're not having to pay any tax, right? And then they're making about 18, anywhere from 15 to 18% return on their money because they're renting those places out. So Costa Rica, I mean, we don't have zero tax on property tax, but what we do have is a very low tax at 1/4%, right? And our rental numbers are really great. So whether you're buying in the southern zone, you're buying in an area like Santa Teresa and Nasara, these are things where people could rent your house in Bitcoin, they could rent your house in a stable coin, but you could also get really returns in maintaining a house in Costa Rica can get expensive, but if you're on top of it, it's not that expensive. So although we don't have zero tax, I do think we have a really good opportunity in the sense of people putting money, because they also mentioned in the Bahamas and also in San Miguel Allende, where you're at right now, it's a very stable market, right? So people like to invest there because the market's not a lot like the beach markets in California where things are going, it's 10 million now and it's 20 million next year, there it's a very steady growth. And so your money's not going down, but it's holding at a very steady level. And I think that Costa Rica is one of the greatest opportunities right now in a market. People may say markets are down, but I think it's a great opportunity because you've got a market that's been steady for years. You've got a market that's holding right now. And you have a market where prices haven't dramatically changed a lot, right? People come in and they say that, oh my God, things are getting so expensive. But the reality is, the average property or average lot that's an ocean view is still pretty much the same price. We've maybe gone up 10, 15%. Where you're seeing the fluctuation is the new quality materials and stuff that are coming in Costa Rica. And I think that's an emergence of a different level of buyer that is Costa Rican as well. I mean, as part of my family and people that are purchasing from San Jose now, they're coming south, they're going north, they're going to Santa Teresa. But you also have a foreigner coming in, right? And you have a foreigner that's coming in that's going to buy in different areas. But I mean, there's just opportunity for all different levels. I mean, and I was just visiting our office in Nasara, and we had clients that were looking to purchase in Ethereum, and their budget was around $300,000 to $400,000. Now, of course, they're not going to get a big ocean view house, which is like anywhere in the world, right? You're going to see a higher price for that. But there was some opportunity that we saw in different areas there where they could buy a home, and they actually set it on a house that ended up being about 425. So I just think there's a great opportunity at all different levels, whatever level you're sitting on, whether you're sitting on, a couple coins or a couple thousand coins in Costa Rica. And with our network of who you and I know, whether it is Costa Rica or it's in Mexico or it's in the UK, we've got connections to really help you park your money or put something somewhere. Like I said, not giving financial advice, but more of just giving you advice and where the markets are doing really well.
Yes, and something interesting is that the usual transaction was someone comes with crypto and we off ramp it, and now the seller has dollars. Now there are a lot of properties in Costa Rica where you could do crypto to crypto or Bitcoin to Bitcoin. I mean, I could think about properties in the Dominical area that you know more than me, in Avellanas, in La Sabana, farms in San Carlos, in Flamingo. There are a lot of properties, $1 million properties or more, beach view, everything where you're able to just pay with crypto and the seller receive crypto. So that's interesting because crypto to crypto, the original vision or Bitcoin to Bitcoin is not only in the retail market that we discussed before, but it's also starting to happen in big deals, $5 million properties, $2 million properties, $10 million properties. And we have a specific, I mean, it's not for this podcast, but if we take out the list between the two of us, there will be a lot of specific projects like that.
Yeah, and something I'll leave a little tidbit for as we can talk about on the next podcast or coming up is tokenization, right? So right now I've been looking at a bunch of different companies that are offering kind of a white label systems to be able to tokenize different real estate projects in Costa Rica. So I'm working with several different projects, one particularly in the southern zone in Golfito. We're going to be doing a condominium project, another one in the northern region as well. And we're looking at putting a tokenization concept into those real estate deals there, right? And so I'll leave that for our next meeting though, because I know that'll create a whole nother conversation. We could probably talk for another hour just about that. But it
Yes.
is an interesting concept that I feel is going to start coming really quickly in Costa Rica, quicker than we all can imagine. And so I know it's something that you and I are starting to explore. So maybe in our next conversation we can dive in a little bit more on what that means to actually tokenize a property, and actually we'll go through that whole process and how the ownership happens with that. And then to plug a little bit too to the real estate, just before we leave, if anybody out there is looking and they're in Costa Rica and you're looking to sell your property here or in Panama or in Nicaragua, anything like that, and you're willing to accept just Bitcoin to Bitcoin or Ethereum to Ethereum, everything like that, let us know. Let us know. Reach out to us. Give us your information. Sergio and I and who DigiPlat have another platform that we're going to be putting together where people can actually just go and search for just specific properties where it's solely crypto to crypto. Send us a link, reach out to me directly. My team will get back to you and we can put that all through the stuff. So, all right. Well, listen, I got to go today and run around. I got a bunch of meetings here in Boston. I'm excited. It's actually a little rainy today. I did see some snow on the ground. It's nice and muddy, but I'm going to head over to MIT. I'm going to head over to Harvard. Actually, I didn't realize there was the biggest conglomerate of universities in Boston. I've never been to Boston, so I knew they were here, but I didn't realize how compact
Yes.
it is.
No, it's amazing. I hosted a family office event in October at Harvard Innovation Labs, and I love Boston. And like you, I need to run, today I'm traveling back to Mexico City. I have an AI meeting, so that's
Beautiful.
super cool with a project we have in our portfolio. And well, looking forward also for the next podcast.
For sure. All right, Sergio, I appreciate you, buddy. I look forward to actually seeing you in person in Costa Rica. If you guys have any comments out there, please leave them in our comments on our YouTube page, and we'll get back to you. And any questions you have, you can email us directly. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.